85 was a hard year.
Yeah, it was.
That was the year I remember I was sitting, because I was up in Noblesville, and of course, Noblesville only did state fair only.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would always go to the early contest to watch all you guys perform, just to know how much in trouble we were in. And it was 85 at Winchester. And it was when you guys did that turnaround, played Don't Get Around Much Anymore, and then I think Larry Harris actually arranged for you guys. I'd never seen 200 kids play like that in my life. It was like, I want to be a part of this program someday. But 85 Winchester, I decided that's when I'm going to be a part of this someday. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, because you were, well, let's back up a little bit. When did you start here?
I started here in '77
Okay.
in the 5 elementaries plus here. I'd come here for band in the morning, and
That's right.
I did Red Key, West Lawn, Bloomfield, Penville. I think Dale Howard was doing the schools in town. And then, you know, I helped during the summer,
Okay.
after school, you know, during the summer, things like that. You know.
Beth, did you start with phys ed, or did you teach something else when you came to Jay County?
Phys ed.
You were phys ed.
In fact, the guard class was to be a physical education class.
Really?
So there were 4 women
Huh.
PE teachers out here at
Wow.
that time.
Amazing.
And of course, I had met Mr. Humbert because he was my transportation to Portland, all of that, but we interviewed, and I thought, what am I interviewing for? Of course, you're a new teacher, you know,
Sure.
you'll say yes to anything to get your foot in the door, so. I remember we met, I think, at McDonald's, and I suppose you interviewed all 4 of us or something, but he just kind of looked at me and said, I think I'll take my chances with you. You have a good sister.
Yep. Elementary school.
And that's where we got the start. And back then, this is what I remember. Of course, I don't have a background. I played in band my freshman year in high school, and that was it. Didn't like to get wrapped on the knuckles too many times. And I did cheerleading, and you couldn't do both things. You know,
Really?
you couldn't be a band and be a cheerleader. So,
Huh.
I know what I was going to say. The football games that we did, it was a different show each football game. And so we'd have 4 songs,
Right.
everyone, yes, 4 songs, not real long songs.
No, they're short.
But I was told to have a flag routine for one of the songs. Seems like we did something kind of similar, maybe for the first one all the time, and then the band played and we stood there, and then we performed, but it was something different every football game. And I thought, what have I gotten myself
Yeah.
into?
Well, when did you guys rehearse for that? Outside of school? After school, or?
Guard was
Guard
during band class.
You were in a routine
Yes.
during,
Yes.
wow, a show every game, that's a
A
lot of
different
time.
show every game.
Spend learning that.
Well, that was what you did back when we started.
Absolutely.
And thing about Lori, we made our own flags basically then, because we didn't have money either for some things, you know.
Right.
And so we'd all cut material out after practices. And I bought her a sewing machine, and she'd sew the flags. I don't think I got in on sewing part or not, but
A little.
yeah.
I don't have much sewing
But
experience.
we had, what, 34 guard kids at that point? So a lot of flags to make.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And,
And a flip flag,
oh yeah, tell us about the flip flag, yeah.
this was our big finale
Yeah,
type
when you
thing
were
that would
right.
open it, I mean, you know, it'd be folded up and we'd open it up. And
Yeah.
then the next year we added another one, and
Outside,
then, yeah, and then it flipped over and.
Pulled it out in strips,
Yeah,
and then flipped it, and on the other side was the American flag.
I
Yeah.
think it's a good prop that you should probably resurrect.
yeah, it was, they were cut on diagonals, the width of the track.
Okay.
And so here's a row of band kids, and here's this flip thing, and here's the
Yes.
kids flip thing, you know. You turn over, and one side was Statue of Liberty, and one side was the American flag, and I'm.
Well, we did okay when we just had 2
It
sides.
was easy, because
Did it?
And
then you had
Then we
to
tried to add that.
And then you had to have.
that's a whole
Yeah.
new set of geometry.
See,
you gotta deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I got in on into that. There was a year we did Stars and Stripes Forever as a closer, and we came up with different colors down those diagonals, and we flipped it over to the United States flag. But that was way after I think it had been initially introduced. Because one time you guys had an exploding flagpole.
design.
Yeah.
He and his son put that together.
And then also, there was a Nerf ball full of flash cubes that was thrown into the air, I think, and the flashes went off at one time.
Remotely,
Yeah.
I think Fred DeHoff was always in on that sort of thing.
Yeah,
He really liked to
We are
have things like
Yeah,
that.
he and Jim Myers.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
well, of course, then there's the year of Jim Myers and his son creating the air cannons,
Oh, yeah, right.
and how that.
Hey, look over here.
That went a little wrong in the creative process of building it, because I think it was definitely a tool time thing where they were in Jim's son-in-law's garage, and they were trying to test out how much pressure
Yeah, right.
the bottom of that could hold, and I think it kind of maybe blew a hole through the end of the garage. You can see him looking through the hole.
Oh, you got one something.
Yeah, but eventually it worked. Because I think one time we were at Anderson, one of the first times we used that, you had to use bean bags
Yeah.
to provide thrust. If you could have tried to do it, it would have never happened. One of those came down and nailed you in the head.
Yes,
I could never
it was
forget
on
that.
film even, we could see
Yeah,
it just coming
because
down.
we turned around like, what was that, you know? Obviously, which, the whole band camp thing, then we finally, because I remember, now I can't remember if that was 89, 90, we had one of the hottest band camps ever at Ball State University, because, again, that was before air conditioning doors.
Right.
And I swear we got those kids up so early in the morning, before the sun really got hot, we would rehearse, we'd shut them down, and then we actually let them stay in their rooms for an hour or two in the afternoon before we went out and did sectionals. We usually do full band stuff, but we ended up doing sectionals, and then we finally rehearsed at night. It was crazy. And I remember that winter time, because we were rehearsing, he said, "He's like, let's go, where are we going? We're going to Miami University, check this place out." We did. And I remember we come back and we told the kids we were going to a new place for a camp. We're going to Miami University. The kids were like, "So, that's no big deal. They have air-conditioned dorms." Yeah! And God had his eye when it happened, didn't he? Remember that? So our first camp at Miami University,
40 outside.
a high of 40.
I remember having to go out and buy a blanket at Kmart, it was so flippin' cold.
Yeah, the kids were like, "We're freezing." And I was like, "Oh man,
Oh, yeah.
this is perfect." So that was a good time. And then,
I remember when cell phones came out early on, of course, Jason Hart had one.
oh yeah,
He walks up, "It's 103, turn that thing off."
yeah,
I don't want to know how it is.
put it away.
But he was like showing everybody, you know.
Oh yeah, good times, that's for sure. But camp was a good time of mine, although it was a long way away. But we got a lot of things done at that time, that's for sure. We had our adventures at Miami too, that's for sure. I remember the time when you and I started playing Starsky and Hutch and I chasing people away. From Jay County people.
Like an archery camp or something too.
My gosh, I thought that guy was gonna shoot me with his bow and arrow that night. And Mr. Humber finally saved us. So,
Tell us about the trumpet duet.
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, there was this one year at camp, and I don't know, we were doing an evening rehearsal, and I think finally, I don't know, we would always take a water break. So water break, like I had my trumpet with me, like all of a sudden we heard this guy from across campus play something on trumpet. So I picked up my trumpet and I played back exactly what that trumpet player would play. We couldn't even see this guy, you could only hear him. And all of a sudden, he played another lick, I'd play a lick exactly back. Well, then all of a sudden we turned around, I'd play a lick, and he would copy me back. So all of a sudden the kids are like, "This is great, keep going, Mr. Smeltzer, play a lick." So we finally went back and forth for about 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, "Okay, cool, that was a lot of fun, let's get back to work." I turn around, the entire band staff is gone and has left the field and nowhere to be found, except there's Mr. Humbert over the hill going, "Hey, how's it going?" And I went, "Phew." Well, then there's that I remember we would always, you and I would go out, because, I mean, as you all remember, you had times you had to be in your room by, and I mean in your room, and if you had to use a bathroom, tough, you held it until the next morning. But I remember we would always walk, and that year the gentlemen were on the first floor, and the ladies were above the floors, and we're walking around making sure nobody's outside. Well, all of a sudden we hear somebody in the bathroom singing. Well, it's a saxophone player brushing his teeth, having a good old time, and we decided to teach this kid a lesson. It should have been in his room. We would walk up, the window was wide open, they had a screen in it. That kid had no clue we were right outside the window, and we were like, "Blah!" The kid swallowed his toothbrush and went 3 feet off the floor, vertical jump. He could have made NBA that year. Obviously, 92 was a pretty big deal, and that was neat. The band had placed second In '85 was the first time, I think, to Don Hoffman of Anderson, and which was a great show as well. And, yeah, one of the closest point spreads that had ever existed. And then 89, 90, 91, we were second. And then it was 92. That was the year, you know, we did the West Side Story. And I can't remember how we came up with that idea. But Les Taylor wrote the show for us again, and Les had been here since the beginning of the program. And, you know, that was a great show to put together. But, you know, we weren't knocking down doors at the beginning of the season, as I remember. In fact, I think, believe it or not, the night before, we always did our ice cream social the night before State Fair. And the night before, I think we had a kid that bailed out, but another kid actually, flu kid, she actually got something in her eye, and she could not march State Fair that day. She went with us, but it was embedded piece of metal or something in her eye. We marched 2 holes that day, and we actually won, I think, during the night show, or the morning show. But I don't even think back then they were giving scores out. Because you get your score sheets from the judges, and it was like, how'd you guys do?
Oh, yeah.
And we kind of knew that we were in the mix, but we really didn't know, you know, for sure until that night. And I think all I remember that night, as we always were, we were standing there back by the stage, and Terry Simpson, the announcer, you know, announced down to the top 3, and then he finally it was 2 left, and we had not been announced yet. It was us and Monroe Central. And I think the only thing I remember is him saying, and after this we will all know, you know, and in second place, and he didn't even finish the words Monroe Central, Monroe, and the place just exploded like I've never heard before. I think I landed in your lap. I jumped so high, I landed in your lap. But what was cool about that is all these bands for years had wanted to see Jay County win for so many years. And you know, it was neat to see other band parents and other bands really supportive of Jay County that night.